There are moments when saying nothing is the most powerful thing you can do. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. But do you know when to use it? Most people don't. And that's exactly why they struggle. In a world where everyone feels the need to voice their opinion, silence has become a lost art. But here's the truth: silence can be your greatest weapon if you know how to wield it. Today we're diving into 10 situations where staying silent isn't just wise, it's life-changing. By the end of this video, you'll see why the ability to hold your tongue can often be the difference between chaos and clarity. Think about this: how often have words gotten you into trouble? Maybe it was a heated argument where emotions took over, or perhaps you shared too much with the wrong person only to regret it later. The problem isn't just speaking, it's speaking at the wrong time. Words have power, but silence can speak volumes without saying a word. The challenge is learning when silence is the better choice. It's not about suppressing your voice, it's about using it wisely. So how do you know when to speak and when to stay silent? Let's explore. 1. When you're angry. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It's raw, it's intense, and it can take over faster than we realize. When anger takes hold, it clouds our judgment and makes us act impulsively. In those moments, silence might feel unnatural after all. Your instinct screams to fight back, to defend yourself, to say something. But here's the truth: silence in the face of anger is not about weakness or surrender, it's about strength and control. I think about it. How many times have you said something in anger only to regret it later? The sharp words you hurled in the heat of the moment might have felt justified at the time, but as the dust settled, those words left damage to your relationships, your reputation, and even to your own sense of self. Once spoken words can't be taken back. They hang in the air, lingering long after the moment has passed. But silence gives you a chance to pause, to think, to breathe. Imagine this scenario: someone insults you. Maybe they criticize your work, your appearance, or something deeply personal. Your first instinct is to fire back, to defend yourself, to match their aggression with your own. But what happens if you don't? What happens if instead you stay silent? That silence does something powerful. It disarms the other person. They expect a reaction, but your silence catches them off guard. It shifts the balance of power. In that moment, your silence becomes your armor. Here's why silence works: anger thrives on fuel. When you respond to anger with anger, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. But when you stay silent, you starve the fire. You take away its power to grow. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or pretend the anger isn't there. On the contrary, silence gives you the space to process your feelings. It's like stepping back from the edge of a cliff to regain your balance. In that pause, you can decide how to respond, not react, but respond. And let's talk about perception. People often associate silence with wisdom. When you stay silent in the face of anger, others see you as composed and thoughtful, not easily rattled. It's a quality that commands respect. Here's a practical way to apply this. The next time you feel anger rising, try the 5-second rule: count to 5 before you say anything. During those 5 seconds, take a deep breath. That short pause can make all the difference. It gives you a moment to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will what I'm about to say help or hurt the situation? More often than not, you'll find that silence is the better choice. Another benefit of silence is that it allows you to focus on solutions instead of problems. When you're silent, you're not wasting energy on arguments or blame. Instead, you're conserving that energy for what really matters: resolving the issue at hand. Let's take a step further. What if you could turn your silence into a tool for self-reflection? Anger often comes from unmet expectations or unresolved issues. By staying silent, you give yourself the chance to examine the root of your anger. You might discover that it's not really about the person who upset you, it's about something deeper, something within you that needs attention. This isn't easy, it takes practice. Silence in the face of anger feels counterintuitive because we've been conditioned to equate speaking with strength. But true strength lies in restraint. It's the ability to hold your tongue when every fiber of your being wants to let loose. Here's a powerful thought to consider. Silence isn't just about what you don't say, it's about what you choose to say later. By staying silent in the moment, you give yourself the opportunity to communicate more effectively later on. When the anger has subsided, you can approach the situation with clarity and purpose rather than with the heat of emotion. Remember this principle: you can't always control how others treat you, but you can always control how you respond. Silence is a choice. It's a deliberate decision to prioritize your peace over someone else's chaos. 2. When you don't have all the facts. In life, we often feel the pressure to speak up, to share our thoughts, to have an opinion on everything. But there's a hidden danger in speaking without all the facts. It's like building a house on quicksand. The foundation isn't solid, and sooner or later it's going to collapse. Speaking without understanding the full picture is one of the fastest ways to lose credibility. How often have you seen someone jump to conclusions only to later backtrack when they realize they were wrong? It's embarrassing, isn't it? And it's entirely avoidable if you learn the art of silence. Silence in these moments isn't about ignorance, it's about wisdom. It's about recognizing that sometimes the smartest thing you can say is nothing at all. Here's a scenario. Imagine you're in a meeting and a problem is being discussed. Everyone is throwing out opinions, trying to sound smart, trying to impress, but you stay silent. You're not staying quiet because you have nothing to say. You're staying quiet because you're gathering information. You're listening. You're observing. When you finally do speak, your words carry weight because they're grounded in understanding. Your silence has given you the time to think, to process, to make sure that what you say adds value to the conversation. Silence is your shield against rash decisions. It protects you from acting on incomplete information. It allows you to ask questions instead of making assumptions. And here's the beauty of it: when you're silent, people fill the gaps. They reveal more than they intended. They give you the information you need without you having to ask for it. Think of silence as a form of patience. It's the ability to wait until you have all the pieces of the puzzle before you start trying to put it together. And let's not forget the power of listening. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, few people take the time to truly listen. Silence allows you to become that rare person who listens deeply. It's a quality that people admire and respect. There's also a practical side to this. When you stay silent, you avoid saying something you might regret. Words spoken in ignorance can't be taken back, and they can have long-lasting consequences. Here's a thought experiment. Think about the last time you jumped to a conclusion. Maybe it was a misunderstanding with a friend or a snap judgment about a coworker. How did that work out for you? Chances are it created unnecessary conflict. Now imagine if you had stayed silent, gathered more information, and approached the situation with a clear mind. The outcome would have been entirely different. In the end, silence in these moments isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about respecting others. It's about acknowledging that you don't have all the answers and being okay with that. Here's the principle: you don't need to have an opinion on everything. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is to admit that you don't know enough to comment. That kind of humility is rare, and it's incredibly powerful. So the next time you're tempted to speak without all the facts, pause. Take a moment of silence. And remember, silence isn't about ignorance, it's about intelligence. 3. When listening is more important. Listening is an underrated skill. In a world filled with noise, where everyone wants to be heard, few people take the time to truly listen. But here's the thing: listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about understanding the person behind the words. Have you ever been in a conversation where it felt like the other person wasn't really listening? Maybe they were just waiting for their turn to talk, or worse, interrupting you to share their thoughts. It's frustrating, isn't it? It makes you feel unheard, unimportant. Now flip the script. What if you could be the person who truly listens? What if your silence could create a space for others to feel valued and understood? Silence in these moments isn't passive, it's active. It's about being fully present. It's about putting aside your own thoughts and focusing entirely on the other person. And when you do that, something amazing happens. People open up. They feel safe. They feel seen. Listening isn't just a gift you give to others, it's a gift you give to yourself. When you listen, you learn, you gain insights you would have missed if you were too busy talking. Here's a practical way to improve your listening skills the next time you're in a conversation. Practice the 2-second rule after the other person finishes speaking. Wait 2 seconds before you respond. That short pause does two things. It shows the other person that you're truly considering their words, and it gives you a moment to formulate a thoughtful response. Silence in these moments isn't just respectful, it's transformative. It turns conversations into connections. It turns relationships into partnerships. And it turns you into the kind of person others want to talk to. So remember this, when listening is more important, silence isn't just golden, it's essential. 4. When someone is venting. We've all been there listening to someone pour their heart out, whether it's about a tough day at work, a frustrating argument with a loved one, or a personal struggle that's weighing them down. Our natural instinct in these moments is to help, to jump in with advice, to fix the problem. But here's the truth, when someone is venting, they often don't need solutions, they just need to feel heard. Silence in these moments is an act of empathy. It's not about ignoring them or pretending to listen. It's about creating a space where they can let their emotions flow without interruption, judgment, or unsolicited advice. When you stay silent, you send a powerful message: I'm here for you. Your feelings matter. Imagine this: your friend is venting about a difficult situation at work. They're upset, frustrated, and just need to let it out. You might feel tempted to offer advice right away, maybe to tell them how to handle their boss or how to avoid similar situations in the future. But pause for a moment. What if instead of speaking, you simply listened? Listening with silence is not passive, it's active. It requires focus, attention, and presence. It means putting aside your own thoughts and resisting the urge to relate their story to your own experiences. Too often we interrupt with well-meaning phrases like, I know exactly how you feel, or here's what I would do. While these comments are intended to help, they can sometimes make the other person feel dismissed, as if their emotions are being minimized. Instead, let your silence speak for you. Use nonverbal cues, a nod, a soft smile, or even maintaining eye contact to show that you're engaged. Silence becomes a tool for connection. Here's an important lesson to remember: people often find their own solutions when given the space to talk things out. When you stay silent and let them express themselves, they may arrive at insights they wouldn't have reached if you had jumped in. Your silence becomes a gift, allowing them to process their thoughts and emotions more clearly. Another powerful benefit of silence in these situations is that it prevents misunderstanding. If you speak too soon, you risk misinterpreting their feelings or offering advice that doesn't fit the situation. Silence gives you time to fully understand what they're experiencing before responding, if a response is even needed. And let's talk about trust. When someone is venting, they're often in a vulnerable state. By staying silent and listening, you show them that their vulnerability is safe with you. It builds a deeper level of trust and strengthens your relationship. That said, silence doesn't mean you ignore the other person's needs. It's about balance. If they pause and look to you for a response, that's your cue to offer support, but not necessarily solutions. Sometimes a simple phrase like, that sounds really tough, or I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, can mean more than any advice. In the end, silence in these moments is about respect. It's about recognizing that the other person's feelings are valid and that they don't always need you to fix things. They just need you to be there. 5. When you're being criticized. Criticism, it's something none of us enjoy, yet all of us encounter. Whether it's from a boss, a friend, or even a stranger, being criticized can sting. It's natural to feel defensive, to want to explain yourself, or even to fire back. But here's a counterintuitive truth: silence is your greatest ally in these moments. When you're criticized, your first instinct might be to argue your case, to defend your actions, explain your intentions, or point out why the criticism is unfair. But doing so often escalates the situation. It turns a conversation into a conflict. Silence, on the other hand, diffuses tension. Imagine this scenario: someone accuses you of something you didn't do. Your instinct is to protest, to prove them wrong. But instead, you stay silent, you let them speak. And as they continue, something interesting happens. They begin to reveal more about their own perspective. Often their criticism says more about them than it does about you. Silence in the face of criticism isn't about agreement, it's about control. It shows that you're not rattled, that you don't feel the need to justify yourself. It's a silent statement that says, I'm confident in who I am and what I stand for. Here's why this works. When you stay silent, you give yourself time to process the criticism. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can ask yourself, is there truth in this? Is there something I can learn from it? Not all criticism is valid, but some of it might contain valuable insights. Silence gives you the clarity to separate the helpful from the hurtful. There's another reason to embrace silence. It protects your dignity. Responding defensively can make you appear insecure or unsure of yourself. Silence, on the other hand, exudes composure and confidence. It shows that you're not easily shaken by others' opinions. Of course, there will be times when a response is necessary, but even then, silence can help. By staying silent initially, you show that you're thoughtful and measured. When you do speak, your words carry more weight because they're seen as deliberate rather than reactive. Here's a simple strategy the next time you're criticized. Take a deep breath before responding. Count to 5 in your mind. That brief pause can make all the difference. It gives you time to regain your composure and decide how or if you want to respond. Remember this principle: you don't have to accept every piece of criticism that comes your way. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Silence allows you to pick and choose what's worth addressing and what's best left ignored. So the next time you're faced with criticism, resist the urge to defend yourself. Stay silent. Let your actions speak louder than your words. 6. When you're in the middle of gossip. Gossip, it's the lifeblood of casual conversations, the whisper that spreads like wildfire. But while gossip may seem harmless on the surface, it carries a hidden cost. It can damage reputations, breed mistrust, and create negativity. And here's the thing: gossip thrives on participation. Without it, gossip dies. When you find yourself in the middle of gossip, silence is your greatest tool. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing, it's about refusing to engage. Think about this: when someone starts gossiping and you stay silent, what happens? They begin to realize that you're not going to fuel the fire. Your silence creates an awkward pause, a moment of discomfort that forces them to reconsider their words. But why is silence so effective in these situations? First, it protects your integrity. By staying silent, you avoid being associated with negative conversations. You're not adding to the problem, and you're not giving anyone ammunition to use against you later. Second, silence sends a subtle message: I'm not interested in tearing others down. It shows that you value positivity and respect, qualities that others will come to admire in you. And here's a bonus: when you stay silent, you avoid saying something you might regret. Gossip has a way of coming back around, and words spoken in haste can have long-term consequences. Here's a practical tip: if you find yourself in a group where gossip starts to unfold, redirect the conversation. Ask a neutral question or change the subject to something more positive. If that doesn't work, simply excuse yourself. Your silence and absence will speak volumes. Remember this principle: what you choose not to say is just as important as what you do say. Silence in the face of gossip isn't about passivity, it's about standing for something higher. It's about choosing to rise above the noise. So the next time gossip comes your way, embrace silence. Let it be your statement, your shield, and your guide. 7. When you're planning something big. Let's start with an all too common scenario. You've got a big idea, a dream you're passionate about, or a goal that excites you. Maybe you're planning to start a new business, write a book, or embark on a major personal transformation. The natural urge is to share your plans with others. After all, it feels good to talk about your aspirations. But here's the truth: the moment you share your goals prematurely, something shifts. Talking about your plans often gives you a false sense of accomplishment. It tricks your brain into feeling like you've already made progress simply by speaking the words. The excitement of sharing can replace the drive to act. This is why staying silent about your plans is so important. Silence is a form of protection for your dreams. Not everyone will understand your vision, Some people might doubt you. Others might criticize or question your ability to succeed. Even worse, there are those who consciously or unconsciously might try to sabotage your efforts, not because they're inherently bad people, but because your ambition highlights their lack of it. Think of it this way: your goals are like seeds. When you plant them, they're fragile, easily damaged by outside forces. They need time to take root, to grow strong beneath the surface before they're ready to withstand external scrutiny. Sharing your plans too soon is like digging up those seeds to show others, interrupting the natural process of growth. Silence also allows you to focus. When you're not busy explaining your plans to others, you have more energy to dedicate to the actual work. Talking about your goals can create pressure to meet others' expectations, which often leads to stress rather than motivation. Keeping them private gives you the freedom to experiment, to fail, and to adjust without fear of judgment. Now, this doesn't mean you should never share your plans. There's a time and place for involving others, particularly those who can support, mentor, or guide you. The key is to wait until your plans are solid. When you've made enough progress that your actions speak louder than your words, that's the time to share. Here's a practical tip: write down your goals instead of talking about them. A written goal becomes a personal commitment. It's a way to clarify your intentions and create a roadmap for success without seeking validation from others. And here's a powerful question to ask yourself: am I seeking support or attention? If you're sharing your plans just to feel good or gain approval, it's better to stay silent. Your dreams don't need validation, they need action. Finally, remember this: your silence isn't about secrecy, it's about strategy. It's about giving yourself the space to build something meaningful without distractions. 8. When someone tries to provoke you, we all encounter people who seem to enjoy pushing our buttons. Maybe it's a coworker who constantly undermines you, a friend who loves to debate just for the sake of it, or even a stranger who cuts you off in traffic. These provocations, big or small, can spark a reaction in us, a need to defend, retaliate, or prove a point. But here's the thing: reacting gives them power. When you respond in anger or frustration, you're playing their game. Silence, on the other hand, flips the script. Silence in the face of provocation isn't weakness, it's strength. It says, I'm in control of my emotions. You don't get to dictate how I feel or act. It's a quiet form of resistance that leaves your provocateur powerless. Let's break this down. When someone provokes you, their goal is often to get a reaction. They want to see you lose control because it validates their behavior. Silence denies them that satisfaction. It creates a void they don't know how to fill. Imagine that someone makes a snide comment about you in a group setting. All eyes turn to you, waiting for your response. If you lash out, you feed into their narrative. But if you stay silent, you maintain your composure. Your silence sends a message louder than words: I'm not lowering myself to your level. Here's the beauty of silence: it creates discomfort for the other person. They may expect you to argue, justify, or retaliate. When you don't, they're left to face their own behavior. Often this leads to self-reflection, or at the very least, a realization that their attempts to provoke you have failed. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it buys you time. When you don't respond immediately, you give yourself a chance to process the situation. You can decide whether it's worth addressing or if it's better to let it go. Not every battle needs to be fought, and silence helps you choose your battles wisely. It's also worth noting that silence doesn't mean ignoring the problem. If someone's behavior is genuinely harmful, you can address it later when you're calm and collected. Silence in the moment is about preserving your energy and composure. Here's a practical approach: the next time someone tries to provoke you, take a deep breath and count to 3. In that brief pause, ask yourself, what do I gain by responding? If the answer is nothing, let silence be your response. Remember, your reaction or lack of it says more about you than their words say about them. By staying silent, you're showing that you value your peace of mind over their attempt to disturb it. Ultimately, silence in the face of provocation is an act of self-respect. It's a way of saying, I'm in control of my emotions. My energy is too valuable to waste on negativity, and that's a powerful statement. When you don't have anything valuable to add, There's a wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's tempting to fill every quiet moment with words to prove you're engaged, knowledgeable, or simply part of the conversation. But here's the truth: not every moment calls for your voice. Silence, when chosen intentionally, can be a mark of respect, humility, and self-awareness. Think about this: how often do people speak just for the sake of speaking? Sometimes it's out of nervousness, other times to avoid seeming uninformed. Yet, in these moments, silence often communicates far more than words ever could. Staying quiet doesn't mean you lack opinions, it means you're discerning about when and where to share them. When you don't have anything valuable to add, staying silent protects your credibility. Imagine being in a discussion about a topic you're unfamiliar with. Jumping in with uninformed opinions might momentarily make you feel included, but it risks revealing your lack of knowledge. On the other hand, saying, "I don't know enough about this to comment," shows humility and a willingness to learn. It positions you as thoughtful and self-aware, someone who values accuracy over ego. Here's an example: you're in a meeting and someone brings up a complex issue that you're hearing about for the first time. Instead of scrambling to contribute, you could listen carefully, take notes, and ask questions when appropriate. Your silence in that moment isn't passive, it's strategic. It demonstrates that you're engaged and open to learning, rather than rushing to speak without understanding. Another layer to this is that silence creates space for others. In a group setting, those who are quieter or more reserved often struggle to find an opportunity to speak. By holding back when you don't have something meaningful to say, you allow others to step forward. This act of restraint fosters collaboration and inclusivity, qualities that are deeply valued in any setting. Now let's address the fear many people have about silence. What if staying quiet makes me seem disinterested or unengaged? The answer lies in your body language and presence. Silence paired with attentiveness, like maintaining eye contact, nodding, and showing genuine interest, communicates far more than words ever could. It tells others that you're listening deeply, considering their perspectives, and valuing the conversation. There's also a power in pausing before speaking. That pause can help you assess whether your contribution truly adds value or if silence would be the better choice. Remember, not every conversation needs your input to move forward. Often the most impactful voices are the ones that speak sparingly but with substance. On a personal level, staying silent when you have nothing valuable to add can also prevent misunderstandings and conflicts. Words spoken without thought can easily be misinterpreted, leading to unnecessary complications. Silence, in contrast, ensures that you don't say something you might later regret. Here's an exercise to practice this principle. The next time you're in a conversation or meeting, ask yourself, does my input bring clarity, insight, or value to this discussion? If the answer is no, let your silence be your contribution. And remember, silence isn't a void, it's a choice. It's a tool you can wield with intention and purpose. By staying quiet when you have nothing valuable to add, you elevate the quality of your communication, showing that you prioritize meaning over noise. 10. When the moment speaks for itself. Some moments are so profound that words feel inadequate. They demand silence, not because there's nothing to say, but because silence allows us to fully experience and honor what's unfolding. These moments, whether they're filled with joy, awe, sorrow, or gratitude, remind us that sometimes words can dilute what silence makes sacred. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast canyon, watching the sun set in hues of gold and crimson. The beauty before you is overwhelming, almost otherworldly. What could you possibly say that would do justice to the scene? In moments like this, silence isn't an absence, it's an acknowledgement. It's a way of saying, this is too great for words. Or consider a moment of profound loss. When someone you care about is grieving, the natural instinct might be to fill the silence with comforting words. But often the most meaningful thing you can do is simply be there, silently offering your presence and support. Words, no matter how well-intentioned, can sometimes feel hollow in the face of deep pain. Silence, on the other hand, communicates empathy in a way that words cannot. These moments of silence aren't just about respecting the external world, they're also about connecting with your inner self. When you allow yourself to sit quietly in a profound moment, you create space for reflection. You give yourself the opportunity to process what you're feeling. to absorb the significance of the experience. Think about this when you're deeply grateful for something. Does saying thank you ever feel like enough? Gratitude often transcends language. It's felt more than it's expressed. Silence in this context is a way of holding on to that feeling, of letting it wash over you without trying to contain it in words. There's a lesson here about presence. In our fast-paced world, we're often so focused on documenting or sharing experiences that we forget to simply live them. Silence forces us to slow down, to be fully present in the moment. It reminds us that not everything needs to be shared or explained. Some experiences are meant to be savored privately. Silence also creates room for awe. Whether it's marveling at the wonders of nature, experiencing a powerful piece of art, or feeling the depth of human connection, silence allows us to sit with the magnitude of these experiences. Words can sometimes reduce these moments to mere descriptions, but silence preserves their mystery and magic. Here's a practical way to embrace this principle the next time you encounter a moment that takes your breath away. Resist the urge to immediately pull out your phone or share it with someone. Instead, take a few minutes to simply sit with the experience. Notice the details, the emotions, the sensations. Let the silence speak. Finally, understand that silence in these moments isn't about avoidance or passivity. It's about reverence. It's about recognizing that some things are too beautiful, too painful, or too profound for words. And in those moments, silence is the truest form of expression. When the moment speaks for itself, let it. You don't need to add anything to it. Just be present and let silence do the talking. Here's the ultimate truth: silence isn't the absence of communication, it's a form of it. In fact, silence can be louder than words when used at the right time. It demands attention. It shows restraint. It speaks of wisdom. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you're choosing growth. You're choosing peace. You're choosing power. The ability to stay silent in the right moments isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. It shields you from unnecessary conflict, strengthens your relationships, and allows you to navigate life with clarity and grace. Remember, silence isn't about being voiceless, it's about knowing your voice is so powerful it doesn't always need to be used.